Hi there, welcome to this build or sort of build blog of this Model L. It's a really nice design by Peter Fisher from 1973, and it's, I guess, characterised by this tailplane that's raised 2/3 up the fin. Now this isn't a detailed build series, it's just kind of an update and a look at various stages of the build, and a little bit of discussion about what I've done. Now I'm building this from a great set of plans which I've submitted to AutoZone, so hopefully by the time you see this video you should be able to download these plans for yourself if you want to build this. Now I'll say it's a great set of plans. It is a good set of plans, but there is quite a bit left to the builder's imagination, particularly with this tailplane, which I've more or less got finished, and also around the nose area. But even so, it's quite an enjoyable build. So since the last video, I've got the turtle deck done, and I've got the fin and the tail assembly more or less pulled together, and it's been some real head scratching to get this done, but it looks really nice. I'm converting this from the original design is free flight, but I've converted this to RC, so I'm going to have two channels. In fact, I'm going to have three channels. I'm going to have rudder, elevator, but I'm also going to have a cutout on the engine, so that's kind of the third channel. So I'll zoom the camera in and we'll have a look at what we've got so far. Right, first off, if we look at the stringers, they're all in place now. There's not many of them, but it'll be fine. It'll give quite a nice structure. Still needs a lot of just sanding and making sure we haven't got the high spots and everything's the right kind of height. You can see these corner ones, or these ones here, sort of splay out quite a bit. If I turn that around, you can perhaps see. But what I did here is I actually steamed these over the nozzle of the kettle so that they wouldn't break, because they're quite thin stringers. They were meant to be 1/8 by 1/8, but I've made them slightly deeper just to make them, or at least these top ones, top three, not the side ones, just to make them slightly stronger. But I quite like that look, the way that splays out. Now these follow through to this tail. I'm moving this very carefully because it's all just resting on there. And you can see we've got this fin built up, and if I turn this round, hopefully it will not fall off. You can see I've got the elevator, and I've got these two elevators linked with a piece of steel between the two, bit of music wire. Originally this was free flight, so it was just an elevator going all the way through and the top of the fin coming back. So I've just had to modify that to make it fit, so we've got a good throw on the rudder. I've made the rudder larger than it shows on the plans. It was only quite small on the plans, just because we want a good moving surface, and those elevators will allow that movement. Still need to thin these down, profile them, get them to a nice shape. And this is still separate pieces, because I will cover the individual bits separately, and then I think I will glue that on. I'll glue that on, and then we'll glue in the rudder. But I've tried to make this as light as possible. I'm slightly concerned this is going to end up a little bit tail heavy, but we'll see. I mean, it's quite a long nose, and the CG is quite a way back. CG is here, but once we get the engine in and that, and I'm trying to get the battery well forward, but we'll see. But this is simple structure, and as you can see, we put the elevator in. And now to operate this elevator, because it's raised up like that, I didn't want to have linkages sort of coming up from down here somewhere. I mean, I could have had a carbon fibre rod coming like that, I suppose, but I wanted it to be nice and kind of seamless and discreet. So what I've done is I've put in a servo under the, let me just move that, under the the tailplane, and that's just sunk there into the bottom half of the fin, and you can see that's just going to stick out. It'll be flush on this side, the covering. Now again, that's going to add more weight. This is a 3.7 gram servo, so it is really light. There's very little weight to it, but at this distance from the CG, it all adds up and makes a difference. And at this point, we need to start thinking about the covering, and so I've put in this extra piece of balsa here just along the bottom, so we can finish the covering there, finish the covering on these, so that that we can then, we'll do all the covering and we'll just cut out this little bit for the servo to slot in. Now I've done a slot there in the fin on the underside. I don't know whether you can see that, for the wire to come down, and it will come down into the bottom of the fuselage. I've put a piece of balsa across here so that we can cut that out if need be to get access to this, and I'll leave it covered to start with, but it's easier to cut that out, do whatever we need to do, and then just cover it over, or even leave it open. And I've put holes all lined up on the in the cross formers that we can take the wire right the way through and up into the into this bay here below the wings, where we can get to quite easily. Now the other thing, which I wasn't sure, which was a bit of a crazy idea, I've got a piece of music wire here which I've just used as a drill. No, not that piece. Where is it? Let me just find it. Sorry. I've got it now. There we go. I've got a bit of music wire. I've just put a bit of a point on, and I've used this as a drill because I didn't put any provision, and this was deliberate, in these cross formers for a control linkage to go down to the rudder, because I wasn't sure how I was going to do the tail end. I didn't want to be cutting out lots of holes in the cross formers, because at the end of the day this needs to be supported, or it'll just bend. It's a 2mm carbon fibre rod. So what I did, when I got to the point where I knew where the control horn needed to be, where I needed to have the servo, I had a piece of music wire with a point on, and I just pushed that in. I got my wife to help me line it up, and I just literally twisted that, span it around, and made a hole going to where I wanted to put the servo. Took a little bit of doing just to, just to line it up, and like I say, I needed my wife to line it up, as to line it that way, and I lined it that way. And now we've got this 2mm carbon fibre rod, which we can just use as a control linkage, and that just nicely slots through all of those holes. It's lined up perfectly. The music wire I used was 3mm, and you can see we've got the carbon fibre there, and we've got it coming out the back, which will line up really nice for the control horn on the back. So I'm really pleased with that, and I think that will work really nicely. So I think now we're at a stage where I'm going to leave this, I'm going to leave that. I think I need to start working on the landing gear. The landing gear and getting this nose section done. So I think we'll come back and have a look, do another update blog on this once we've got that done. But you can see it's really starting to take shape, and I'm getting quite excited about how this is looking, and I can start thinking now about how I'm going to cover it. I mean, there's still quite a lot of work, but it's exciting to see it starting to take shape. So anyway, well, as I said, I'm really enjoying how this is coming together, and you can see it now with the wings on it, and you really get an idea of how this bird's going to be. And I can't wait now to get on with the next bit of it, and doing the front and getting that nose cowl done and the landing gear. And I haven't said in this video, but the engine is going to be a ED competition special 2cc. So it's a 1948 engine, so it's a good old engine that runs really sweet. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed seeing this update of the Model L, and please come back and we'll do another video once I've done a little bit more work around the front, and we'll see how that looks. Thanks very much for watching.